An old man is lowered into the rocky dirt of the Ephraim Hill country. The soil is packed over the grave of Joshua. We treat them as a gallery of champions. Flawed but faithful, raised up by God to save the day. He fashions it into an ephod, a priestly garment. He sets it up in his city. And immediately, the text says, all Israel plays the harlot with it. The deliverer becomes the idol maker, and the decay accelerates. Gideon dies, leaving behind 70 sons. One of them is Abimelech. Abimelech does not want to deliver Israel. He wants to rule it. He hires assassins with silver pulled from a pagan temple. He marches to his father's house. He drags his own brothers to a single rock. 70 men, one stone. The dark blood pools in the dirt. He slaughters his own family to steal a crown. The oppressor is no longer a foreign king. The oppressor is Israelite ambition. The spiral is spinning violently out of control. The carnage has turned entirely inward, and the next man to take the mantle of deliverer will show us just how twisted their understanding of God has become. When you study the religious environment of the ancient Near East, you quickly realize how easily theology can be contaminated by geography. The Israelites are living side by side with the Ammonites and the Moabites. These are nations that worship deities, like Chemosh and Molech gods, whose altars demand human blood. Gods who require the sacrifice of children to guarantee military victory. And as the decades grind on, but if you look closer at the specific Hebrew words used to describe them, at the terrifying violence they unleash. The Israelites do not just adopt the physical idols of their neighbors. They begin to project the bloodthirsty, transactional character of those pagan gods onto Yahweh. The theology rots from the inside out. You see this infection peak in a man named Jephthah. He is the son of a prostitute, driven out by his half-brothers, living as a gang leader in the arid hills of Tob. But when the Ammonites threaten to crush the region of Gilead, the same tribal elders who exiled him come crawling back. They need a warlord. They beg him to lead their army. Jephthah agrees, but his understanding of how the divine realm operates is entirely broken. Before he marches into battle, he stands before God and makes a devastating negotiation. He vows that if God will hand the enemy over to him, he will sacrifice whatever comes out of the doors of his house to meet him when he returns in triumph. He thinks he is showing piety. He thinks he is securing divine favor. The vow is not a measure of extreme faith. It is a measure of deep theological illiteracy. He assumes the God of Israel needs to be bribed with burnt offerings, exactly like the Canaanite deities. God gives him the victory anyway, not because of the foolish vow, but because of the desperate cries of the oppressed people. Jephthah rides back to his home in Mizpah, the thick dust of victory clinging to his armor, the heavy wooden door. At the state of the nation they leave behind, you realize the Sunday school version completely misses the tragedy on the page. Of his house swings open. The bright rhythm of tambourines breaks the air. His only daughter dances out to greet him. Jephthah tears his clothes in agony. But pay close attention to his words. He does not repent of his terrible theology. He blames her. He tells his daughter that she has brought him to his knees, and he insists that he cannot break a vow to the Lord. He treats Yahweh as a monster who demands the payment of a young girl's life. And the text falls completely silent as he carries out the burnt offering, leaving the reader staring in horror at a deliverer who has become indistinguishable from the pagans he was fighting. The spiral has hit a terrifying depth. The judges are no longer just cowardly, or ambitious, or brutal. They are actively sacrificing their own children in the name of the God who explicitly forbade it. But there is one deliverer left, and his life will capture the absolute bottom of the descent. The sun beats down on the vineyards of Timnah. A man walks down the dusty road, away from his people, toward a Philistine woman. A young lion roars from the brush. The man does not draw a sword. He reaches out with bare hands and tears the beast apart like a young goat. The blood stains the dirt. His name is Samson. The book of Judges is not a highlight reel of champions. It is a slow-motion collapse. It is a descending staircase. He is the last deliverer named in the book, and he is the absolute bottom of the spiral. He is a Nazirite from the womb, bound by a sacred vow, forbidden from touching dead bodies, drinking wine, or cutting his hair. But watch how he walks through the world. He reaches into the bleached, rotting ribs of a lion carcass to scrape out sticky honey. He throws massive drinking feasts with his enemies. He sleeps with a prostitute in Gaza. He lays his head in the lap of a woman who is actively paid silver to betray him. He is not a Sunday school superhero raised up to inspire faith. He is a walking, breathing mirror of the nation of Israel. Look at the terrifying parallel. Israel is set apart by God, but constantly sleeps with foreign idols. Samson is set apart by God, but constantly sleeps with foreign women. Israel is physically present in the promised land, but completely spiritually blind. Samson will end his life physically powerful, but literally blind. His eyes gouged out by Philistine blades in the dark. But the real tragedy of Samson's story is not his personal moral collapse. It is the total apathy of the nation around him. In the earlier generations, taking a unified people of God down into absolute, brutal anarchy. The men and women who lead them are not stepping stones to greatness. The people cried out in agony. They begged God for rescue. But by the time Samson arrives, the fire is completely dead. The Israelites have been under the heavy Philistine thumb for 40 years, and they are comfortable. They do not want a revolution. They want the status quo. When Samson ties torches to foxes and burns the Philistine grain fields, the heavy smell of black smoke rolling over the hills, the tribe of Judah does not rally behind him. 3,000 Israelite men march down to the rocky cleft, where he is hiding, but they do not bring swords to fight the oppressor. They bring thick, new ropes. They bind their own deliverer. They hand him over to the enemy just to keep the peace. Samson snaps the ropes like charred flax. He picks up the fresh, heavy jawbone of a donkey. The bone crushes bone. The dirt turns to mud with blood. 1,000 men fall, but he fights entirely alone. He does not fight for his people's freedom. He fights for his own revenge. The rhythm of deliverance is dead. God still uses Samson's raw strength to strike the Philistines. But there is no national salvation. It ends in a Philistine dungeon. They are a mirror reflecting a society that is forgetting its own name. With every new leader, the moral standard drops. The champion of Israel is chained to a heavy grinding stone in the pitch black, pushing a wooden wheel in endless, meaningless circles. He prays one final time. He pushes the massive stone pillars. The roof collapses. The dust rises over. 3,000 crushed bodies. He kills more in his death than in his life. But the oppression does not end. The nation does not repent. The era of the deliverers closes in the rubble of a pagan temple, with a broken man buried under the stones. But the book is not over, because the final chapters reveal what happens when a nation finally hits the floor, and the deliverers stop coming entirely. After Samson's broken body is pulled from the rubble, the entire structure of the book splinters. The rhythm of rebellion and rescue completely stops. The cycle dies. There are no more foreign oppressors. There are no more warlords raised by God. For the final 5 chapters, the narrative simply drops the camera into the daily life of the tribes, forcing the reader to watch the reality of a society that has totally lost its moral compass. The external enemies are gone, but the violence reaches its absolute peak. We watch a mother fund a private shrine for her son using stolen silver. With every new generation, the violence grows more chaotic, more internal, more devastating. To feel the weight of this tragedy, you cannot just look at one isolated story, blending the worship of Yahweh with cast-iron household gods. We watch a rogue priest hire himself out to the highest bidder, acting as a spiritual mercenary for a wandering tribe. And then, the text forces us to look at a scene so grotesque, it rivals the worst atrocities of Sodom and Gomorrah. A traveling Levite and his concubine seek shelter in the Israelite city of Gibeah. As the night deepens, the men of the city surround the house, pounding their heavy fists against the wooden door. demanding the traveler be brought out for their violent sexual gratification. To save his own skin, the Levite shoves his concubine out into the pitch-black street. The heavy door is barred shut. She is brutally abused until dawn. When the morning sun rises, she is found dead, her hands clinging to the wooden threshold. The Levite does not bury her. He takes a knife, dismembers her body into 12 pieces, and ships the blood-soaked flesh to the 12 tribes of Israel. The result is a devastating civil war. Israelite swords slaughter the tribe of Benjamin. Cities are burned to ash. Thousands of brothers massacre each other in the rocky terrain. The book does not end with a triumphant victory. You have to look at the entire downward spiral. But before we can watch the descent, there is a detail hiding in plain sight. It ends in a self-inflicted slaughter, and 4 separate times in these final chapters. The author inserts a precise, chilling diagnosis. It is a single sentence that explains the entirety of the downward spiral we have just witnessed. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Modern readers often read that phrase and project their own democratic ideals onto it. We hear about doing what is right in your own eyes, and we think of personal liberty, individual autonomy, and living your truth. But to the ancient Hebrew mind, this phrase is not a celebration of freedom. It is a horrifying autopsy report. It is the terrifying reality of a people who have severed themselves from divine authority, leaving a vacuum where human depravity reigns unchecked. Without a true king to anchor their identity, they consume themselves. The spiral has hit the absolute bottom. The nation is fractured, bleeding, and drowning in its own moral darkness. But the tragedy of the judges is not just ancient history. A left-handed man drew a hidden dagger, and a foreign king bled out on the stone floor. A fleeing general drank warm milk in a nomad's tent, and a wooden peg shattered a 20-year reign of iron. A terrified farmer wrung water from a fleece, and broken clay pitchers terrified an army in the dark. The title printed on the spine of our Bibles gives us the wrong image. We hear the word judges, and we picture a courtroom. An ambitious son slaughtered his brothers on a single rock, and the terror turned entirely inward on a fractured nation. A desperate warlord made a tragic vow before a battle, and a daughter paid the price for a corrupted theology. A blind champion pushed massive stone pillars in the dark, and thousands of oppressors fell in the rubble. And a wandering society forgot the name of their God entirely and consumed itself in blood because it had no king. Same cycle. Same spiral. One desperate cry for an authority that lasts. But here's the part I keep coming back to. The terrifying phrase that ends the book. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. We look at the dark blood pooling around the throne, the heavy chariots sinking in the swamp, and the broken bodies under the temple rubble. And we think the primary problem was the Philistines or the Midianites. The problem was never the Philistines. The problem was an internal rot so deep that Israel forgot how to be the people of God. Doing what is right in your own eyes is not liberation. It is an autopsy report. If you are in a season where you feel the crushing weight of doing things your own way, where the modern freedom of radical autonomy has slowly turned into its own kind of prison, this ancient book is a mirror. It is the brutal, honest proof that we do not just need a temporary deliverer to fix our immediate crisis. We do not need a warlord. We imagine a stoic figure in a black robe, holding a wooden gavel, dispensing quiet wisdom and legal rulings to a peaceful society. We need a king. We need an authority higher than our own fractured desires. And may the God who watched his people spiral into the dark, yet still answered their desperate cries for rescue, show you the true king who stepped into our chaos, not with an iron sword, but with a cross. If this opens something in you, subscribe. Leave a comment, even one word helps. Share this with someone who feels caught in a cycle they cannot break. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. The commander who watched fortress walls collapse and foreign kings fall. The mourners weep. The crowd disperses. The wind blows the dust over his tomb. But when you look at Judges chapter 2, verse 16, The text describes a people whose fields are burning, whose homes are being plundered, who are choking on the dust of foreign chariots. The verse says, "Then the Lord raised up judges, who saved them out of the hand of those who plundered them." The word our English Bibles translate as judges is the Hebrew word shaphat. It is a word that can mean to decide a controversy or govern a people, but its primary function in this era carries a much more visceral weight. It is almost always paired with another Hebrew verb, yasha, which means to save, to rescue, to tear away from destruction by physical force. You see this same word used later in 1 Samuel. When a young David is running for his life in the wilderness, he hides in the back of a damp, pitch-black cave while King Saul's army hunts him with spears. David prays and asks God to shaphat him. He is not asking for a legal hearing. He is asking for a violent, decisive rescue. That route changes everything. The men and women in this book are not magistrates. They are warlords. They are tribal chieftains, and with him, a collective memory dies. A new generation wakes up in a land they did not have to bleed for. Military tacticians and desperate deliverers raised up for a specific, bloody crisis. God does not select them because they have flawless character or impeccable theology. He uses them because the nation is drowning, and he needs a blunt instrument to break the grip of the oppressor. And the author of Judges wants you to see the terrifying rhythm this creates. It is a 4-step cycle that repeats like a slow, failing heartbeat. The people rebel and worship the heavy stone, idols of Canaan. God steps back and allows a foreign army to oppress them. The people cry out in agony under the crushing weight of foreign taxes and brutal slavery. God raises up a Shaphat to shatter the oppressor and give the land peace. But the peace never lasts. The fundamental issue is not the foreign army parked outside their 21 borders. It is the spiritual decay rotting their own hearts. With every turn of the cycle, the deliverers themselves become more compromised, more erratic, and more broken. The spiral does not pull them upward toward holiness. It drags them downward into chaos. The descent begins quietly enough. The very first man to step into the role looks exactly like the hero we want him to be. They look at the towering stone altars of Canaan, smoking with sweet incense, promising rain and grain and fertility, and they kneel. An Aramean king marches into the land with chariots and chains. The people scream for relief. The cycle demands a deliverer. Othniel steps up. He is Caleb's nephew. He has the right bloodline. He carries the right history. The Spirit of God rushes upon him. He marches his men into the dust. He shatters the foreign army. The land breathes. It rests for 40 years. There is no moral ambiguity. There are no hidden motives. There are no bizarre tactics. Just a clean, righteous deliverance. He is the ideal. And he is the last of his kind. The moment Othniel is buried in the rocky soil, the cycle spins again. The idolatry returns. And the standard begins to warp. The king of Moab crosses the Jordan River and seizes the city of palms. His name is Eglon. The text pauses to note a specific physical detail. He is an immensely fat man. For 18 years, Israel pays him heavy, crushing tribute. The nation groans under the weight. God raises a new deliverer. His name is Ehud. He is from the tribe of Benjamin, but there is a biological detail the author highlights. He is left-handed. Ehud forges a double-edged iron dagger, 18 inches long. He straps it to his right thigh. He hides it beneath his cloak. They do not know the sea that split in half. They do not remember the manna that tasted like honey on their fathers' tongues. He carries the heavy tribute money to the palace. He presents the gold to Eglon. Then he leans in. He whispers that he has a secret oracle for the king. Eglon waves his hand. The guards are dismissed. The heavy wooden doors pull shut. The room is a cool, shadowed roof chamber. Eglon stands up from his throne. Ehud reaches across his body with his left hand. The motion is completely hidden from where a normal right-handed man would draw a sword. The blade flashes. It sinks deep into the king's belly. The iron goes in. The fat closes over the hilt. The bowels empty. Ehud leaves the dagger inside. He locks the chamber doors. He climbs out through the porch. The guards stand in the hallway, smelling the stench. Assuming the king is relieving himself, they wait. They wait longer. By the time they panic and break the lock, the dark blood is pooled on the stone floor. Eglon is dead. Ehud is already in the hill country. A ram's horn blows in the mountains. The Moabites are slaughtered at the river fords. This is not a righteous, open-field military campaign. It is a brutal assassination in a locked bathroom. Then comes Shamgar. They only know the immediate. Heavy presence of iron chariots parked on their borders. And so a rhythm begins. One verse. A sudden flash of violence. The Philistines attack. Shamgar stands his ground in the dirt. He does not hold a sword. He does not carry a spear. He swings a wooden ox goad, a heavy farm tool used to prod cattle. He beats 600 men to death. The ox goad is not a weapon of trained warfare. It is the tool of a desperate, disarmed farmer. The spiral is pulling downward. The deliverers are getting strange. The violence is getting raw. And the next time the nation cries out, God does not raise up a man with a blade. When you study the military history of the ancient Near East, the presence of iron chariots is the ultimate trump card. They are the ancient equivalent of heavy tanks. For 20 years, a Canaanite commander named Sisera uses 900 of them to grind the northern tribes of Israel into the dirt. The oppression is so severe that the major highways are abandoned. Travelers sneak through the brush unwinding, hidden byways just to survive. But the real tragedy is not the military mismatch. It is the internal collapse of Israelite courage. The spiral is showing us exactly what happens when a nation forgets its God. The men drop their shields. The men of Israel have so thoroughly lost their nerve that when God raises up a prophetess named Deborah, a nation rebels. An enemy oppresses. A people cry out. A deliverer rises. The land breathes. Same rhythm, again and again. Who sits under a palm tree in the hill country, dispensing wisdom. The appointed military commander refuses to march without her handholding. A man named Barak stands before her, looking at the crushing odds, and issues a coward's ultimatum. If she walks to the battlefield with him, he will go. If she stays under her tree, he will not go. This is not a man showing spiritual deference. This is a man paralyzed by the odds. So Deborah agrees to go. But she delivers a sharp prophecy that permanently seals his shame. Because he refused to lead. The glory of the battle will not go to the general. It will go to a woman. A sudden, violent rainstorm floods the Kishon River, turning the battlefield into a swamp. The terrifying iron chariots sink deep into the mud, becoming useless metal traps. Sisera abandons his army and runs on foot, his lungs burning, until he reaches the isolated tent of a nomadic woman named Jael. She invites the fleeing general inside. She covers him with a heavy rug. When he asks for water, she opens a skin and gives him a bowl of warm, heavy milk to drink. He falls into an exhausted, deep sleep. Jael does not pick up a sword. She does not have one. She picks up a wooden tent peg and a heavy workman's mallet. Most people read the Book of Judges as a collection of Sunday school heroes. You picture Samson tearing a lion apart with his bare hands. She creeps over to the sleeping commander. The wood splinters bone. She drives the peg completely through his temples, pinning his head into the dirt floor of the tent. The deliverance is successful, but the honor is utterly displaced. The victory is not a testament to Israel's military might. It is a public humiliation of their cowardice. God is still saving his people, but the vessels are cracking. The deliverers are becoming reluctant, and the violence is growing more intimate. But even Barak's hesitation looks like pure bravery compared to the man God calls next. A man stands in a stone pit, beating out wheat. The air is choked with dust. He is hiding at the bottom of a winepress, because the Midianites are swarming the land like locusts. They devour the crops. They strip the fields bare. An angel appears under an oak tree and calls him a mighty man of valor. Gideon looks around. He sees no valor. He only sees his own fear. God commands him to tear down his father's stone altar to Baal. Gideon does it in the pitch black of night. He is too terrified to do it in the sun. God tells him to march against the Midianite army. Gideon demands proof. You imagine Gideon laying out a fleece on the damp grass. You see Deborah commanding armies under the shade of a palm tree. He leaves a piece of sheared wool on the hard threshing floor. He asks for the wool to be soaking wet and the dirt to be completely dry. The sun rises. He wrings a heavy bowl full of water from the fleece. He is still terrified. He asks again, make the dirt wet. Make the fleece dry. The sun rises. The dirt is thick mud. The wool is bone dry. Modern Christians read this story and call it putting out a fleece. We use it as a spiritual strategy for making big life decisions. We ask God for a sign. We want a wet fleece to confirm our choices. But look at the text. The fleece is not a model for discerning God's will. It is a monument to human cowardice. God does not need the fleece. He simply humors the coward. He strips Gideon's massive army from 32. 0, 0, 0. Men down to 300. They hold clay pitchers. They hold burning torches inside. They smash the clay in the dark. The noise shatters the night. The Midianites wake up in blind terror. They draw their iron swords. They slaughter each other in the confusion. Israel wins. The oppression breaks. The people ask Gideon to be their king. He says the right words. He says God will rule over them. But watch his hands. He asks the soldiers for their gold earrings. He melts the heavy gold down.